Thank you. Well, I know all your names now, so that's good, right? Is this Mr. Cameraman, is this okay for you? Because I don't... Okay, good. Okay, thanks. It's a small group. So if you find me really boring, you can walk out and I won't be offended, okay? I won't, because even if I know your name, I won't be offended, okay? So, a nice title here, right? But at the end of the day, I'm just going to talk about general cloud in particular and what it actually means to us going forward. So, I had a great introduction. Thank you very much. So, I actually now work for Dell. That's actually my 12th month is now here. So, 12 months on the supply side. But for the last 10 years, I've been working for a very different world. I was working for a car company. Yeah. Now, that isn't the car company I was working for, by the way. That's just my car in my house. Yeah, you don't believe that, right? Okay. So, really, I was sort of end-user world. So my world is a world that's concerned with what does cloud computing mean to customers? What does it mean to my business? And everything I do and everything I say will be wrapped around the fact that what people need and what businesses need, yeah, to run efficiently in the future world that's coming up, which we call the cloud era. Yeah. I actually started in a great company called Digital. Who knows Digital? Oh, over 30. A person over 30. Yeah. Okay. PDP-11s, Vaxis, VMS, that was my world. Great company, no longer with us, unfortunately. As mentioned earlier, there's a few committees I share on. I mean, the chairman of the Singapore Computer Society for the Cloud Computing Group, a member of the IT Management Association. If you're an IT management person, you should be part of that as well. It's good to get together with all those IT management folks. And a number of various different web links, which I put down here, which are quite useful. If you want to know more about how to get into cloud computing, for example, the NICF is a great place to start. It has a career roadmap of what things you need to learn, what training courses you need to take, depending on what level you want to achieve in the cloud computing area. So we've just released that one. So that you should really take a look at because it does detail all those great courses you can do in Singapore, the SITREP ones where 80% has been discounted and things like this. So really a good idea to take a look into that. That was done in association with the Workforce Development Agency. That's why we have the whole SITREP thing going on there. And later you'll see next year a standard publish for cloud computing and virtualization from the IT Standards Committee. That's still an active working group, so I'm still sort of on a monthly basis attending that and providing content to that. So some great links here, some great things that we're doing in Singapore to make us all great. Just quickly about Singapore. Who's a Singapore Computer Society member? One person. Just one. 2 people. That's very bad. You're all Singaporeans, right? Okay, I know you're not, but should all be members of the Singapore Computer Society, all part of the Infocom group, right? It was started in '67, 1 year after I was born, and the only thing about clouds was the clouds over Boat Quay here, back in '67, that's from the picture there, and these wonderful things called mainframes were actually running with 8 kilobits of memory, or sorry, 8 kilobytes of memory, so things have changed quite a lot since then. Anyone can be a member, non-profit, 6,000 people make up the Singapore Computer Society on a professional business side, people like yourselves, and 16,000 plus students. We do lots of things in Singapore Computer Society. Basically what we're here is to support the Infocom industry of Singapore, make sure that our voice is heard in Singapore, and that we develop best practices and we form a great community. And basically it's about networking and making new friends. I'm doing a quick pitch for you here because you're not members of that society, and I hope that probably you'll think, oh, tomorrow I'm going to become a member of this computer society. We're aligned to many of the different government organizations, sister company SITF, HP, IBM's part of that, of course, IT Management Association, and aligned up to these other various computer societies. Inside Singapore Computer Society, we have special interest groups. I represent the cloud computing, but there's a Web 2 technology, there's an open source group, and there's a supply chain group. And I soon hear that there'll be a healthcare group as well, a special interest group dedicated to healthcare in the industry of IT in that space. Many chapters, quality assurance, project management, business continuity, wireless networks, and the student chapters. And it's also a certification center as well. So we do lots of certifications that are recognized here in Singapore. So that's the kind of the business objectives and domain structures of SCS. You can join us anytime. Please visit our website. That's the only thing I'm here to sell you today, because I'm standing here as the chairman of that group. I have nothing else to sell you. That is my pitch for the Singapore Computer Society and for the good of Singapore. So, cloud computing. You're all here for cloud computing because obviously it somehow interests you, right? So, what are the things we need to think about as we take that journey into the future with cloud computing? One of the things that I find it's important is we need to think about what's given birth to the cloud. Where does it all start from? So where is that from? Is that from the digital revolution? How is that affecting us? We need to understand term cloud and cloud computing. That's very important because everything in your life you're told is everything is cloud, cloud, cloud. Well, I need to be able to differentiate that for you because otherwise it gets quite confusing out there. The ICT industry, all the people that sell us equipment, they're also under tremendous change. If you go to IBM, you go to HP, you go to Dell, they're all telling you new things about how the world will look in future, and they have great solutions and great products. They're also under a bit of stress to bring us solutions as well. For those people that are in-house, like I have been for the last 10 years, it put big pressure on me to change. And it put big pressure on my staff to change as well. When I introduced cloud computing, there was a certain reorganization that had to take place, and in certain cases I had to reduce headcount. What we also need to look at is the effect on IT employment in general, and that's something else that we need, from a national level, we need to see what does that mean to us, all the people that are in Infocom. What kind of cloud computing should we be looking out for? What are the key focus points? How should we build an efficient architecture for cloud? What's the good characteristics of a cloud? Most importantly, good governance. How do we protect our cloud? Yeah? How do we keep it running? And how do we save our face if anything happens, to our cloud? For example, there have been a number of examples in the world today where people have lost services, and you need to keep your reputation as a company. Yeah? So it's also important to have good governance. The big problem is, today you didn't come to learn about cloud in just 60 minutes. Right? At the end of the day, this is can be a lifetime topic for many people. Those from IBM and HP, you're probably very well aware of just how many topics that cloud computing involves. So really, today I'm just going to give you a scratch across the surface of the kind of things that you need to know from an independent perspective. There's no reason why you can't ask me later or just send me an email. I'll give that at the end if you have more questions. So, this was a presentation I gave in Sri Lanka to talk about what I call the disappearing world of analog. If you think about it, we had checkbooks. I came to Singapore, I did actually get more checkbooks when I first arrived in Singapore. I thought everything's so electronic here, and then the first thing I did when I opened up a bank account was I get lots of checkbooks. But checkbooks is a disappearing world. We do far less writing of checks now. We do much more online transactions and direct debits. We used to carry lots of cash in our pocket. We carry lots of plastic nowadays, and we carry lots of electronic means of payment. And in future, we'll just carry our mobile phone as the way to pay. Cash is going to become a thing of the past, right? If people like Google and people like that are telling us that we're going to have electronic wallets, and I do believe that lots are going to happen. Our offices have changed dramatically. The amount of paper we've cut out is amazing. I don't know if we've saved any time because we've put bad IT and we just get just as many more IT processes and spend more time wasting on our computers than we did on paperwork. But the world has changed. We're now becoming much more paperless. Governments are moving towards paperless offices in a way to cut down on waste. We used to take pictures. Remember those? Remember the rolls of film? I always smile when I see that stuff, right? Like, wow. Remember? You could buy a 24 or a 36. And I didn't always want to buy the 36 because it was quite expensive, so I'd often buy the 24. Yeah? And I'd put it in my camera and I'd take pictures all day. I'd open up my camera and found that the thing didn't actually get wound onto the other spool, so I just wasted all my time. Don't have that with digital cameras right now. Today it tells you you're out of memory. We had cassettes. Anyone still got cassettes? I have. I found one the other day and I thought, I'll keep it anyway, because I don't know what else to do with it, but it's kind of funny. Telephones we used to use a lot. Now we use mobile, voice over IP, unified communications. We still read newspapers. There's one called Today. It's dropped at my door, and occasionally I'll read it if my battery's flat on my computer. Yeah, so I'll sit there and read that. But most of our news now comes through the internet. Forget this. Remember the emails we used to send to each other? Sorry, the letters we used to send to each other from overseas. It was kind of exciting to open up now. 90% of in my mailbox now, when I open it, it's just junk mail. Yeah, so most things that come by this kind of format, usually I can ditch. Yeah. Travel tickets, the electronic ticket, I used to remember how great it was to have those tickets. You know, you tear out and give to the check-in desk. All gone. It's a thing of the past. Identity now is becoming also a thing of the past, becoming much more electronic, biometrics and things like this. So, and of course, the most important thing, and we're in a very important place today, the library. We don't visit the libraries anymore like we used to, right? We just Google, or we Yahoo, or we Bing. Where's it all gone? Well, it's consolidated into smartphones, desktop kind of computers, and electronic ID cards. All of our media, our listening, our viewing, our documents have just turned into zeros and ones. Our whole world is just zeros and ones. Once everything turns into zeros and ones, you can put it into a cloud of information, right, called clouds, asset clouds. Yeah? I'm not using the word cloud computing here, and I'll tell you why later. But basically, digital assets, who we are, where we work, how much money we get paid, how much rent we pay, where we live, where I'm actually standing right now. Your phones are probably already telling many people in the world exactly where you are right now, if you're carrying an iPhone or a BlackBerry or something like this. So much information is being propagated into these clouds. Of course, we do it because we think that in the end we're going to have a much better lifestyle, right? We're going to have much cooler things. We're going to have Angry Birds, which is going to make our life better. Yeah, we're going to have a cleaner environment because we're not traveling so much, we're not consuming so much. So I'm a home worker. I don't know about any of yourselves, but when I joined Dell, they said to me, okay, Martin, you don't have an office, you just go home. I said, hey, I just joined. No, you just go home, you work from home. So a much bigger trend now, people working from home. That's something that you need to plan for. That's going to become a big thing as floor space becomes very expensive. They'd rather you use your HDB or condo space than use the valuable space in the CBD area. All of our learning, most of our learnings now is coming from iPads, various different sources. Most of my friends live inside my computer, not in real life, right? I love my computer because all my friends live in it. If you look at our kids today, they live their world through their PC and their friends' network. Yeah, changing a lot. I see now an announcement yesterday in today's newspaper, I still read the newspapers, that you'll be able to tap your mobile phone with near-field communications on it on windows of shops and get all the latest deals and lots of information from it as well. So public communications, signage, intelligent electronics, as you walk past the shop, it sees who you are, it knows about you and tries to offer you something that it thinks it's going to be interested in. The cashless society we talked about earlier. Google Wallet, now been piloting, seems to be working quite well for those people that trust their mobile phone to give away their information. For me, it's like the electronic cash card, something we're used to here, of course, a little bit in Singapore. But obviously this guy will keep account of how exactly you're spending. When I give my Nets card, I don't see what's happening. With this guy, I can see everything I'm spending and everything that I have in reserve, so that's pretty neat. Those people in banking, I'm sure you're already seriously considering what this means to yourselves. Video and unified communications, we Skype now. Yeah, we still tend to make the phone calls like this because somehow we prefer it. But as the bandwidth gets cheaper, as the phones get smarter, the cameras get better, the bandwidths get better, we tend to look at people a little bit more. Yeah, that's definitely an emerging thing. I'm not sure as a social society that we always want to have people see where we are. You know, like when the boss says, "Where are you?" and you say, "Oh, you're busy working on something," but then behind you is the beach at Sentosa, you know, so you have to think about that a little bit in terms of what that means, in terms of how we present it. Probably there'll be a great iPhone application that will put the picture of an office behind you, yeah, so wherever you are. That, I'm sure someone will come up with that one. That would be a great business idea. Everything is about where you are. I've noticed from HungryGo where it says, oh, you're here, so there's a great restaurant down here, 5 stars, come and eat, special discount for you, yeah. Groupon type services, location-based services. Here's the next pizza shop. Here's the next 7-Eleven. You know it as well as I do. Those services we're very well aware of here in Singapore. Expect lots and lots more of location-based services. And advanced healthcare. Yeah, well, you're going to hook yourself up to your PC at home or to your iPad, and your doctor's going to visit you on the iPad. Yeah, and he's going to read what your blood pressure is and listen to your heart rate and all that. This is the future. That's exactly what's happening. The world's changing. Now, for me, and I drew this slide at the weekend because I watched a film on Saturday called Time. Has anyone seen it yet? Not seen it? Oh, it's here in Singapore. It's a great movie. And it basically, people will you live to the age of 25, and after that, you die instantly. Right? Unless you can get some credit. And so there's no more money in the world. It's just time is the currency. And you get time from other people. Right? And you get time for working hard. And if you're a good person, you can live beyond 25. And if you're a multimillionaire, you can live decades. And you trade money, you trade time between people by touching them. It's kind of an interesting concept. I kind of thought that was kind of funny. And the whole point was time is money, money is time. And it's really true, right? Because if we had endless amounts of time, we could probably make endless amounts of money or have a great time, relaxing, right? Because we would have the time to do the right things. When you think about the cloud that we just talked about and we showed all those repositories of information, if you had access to the right information at exactly the right time and you made the right decisions with a bit of calculated risk and the right actions, you would be endless millionaires. You wouldn't be sat here tonight listening to me. You'd be sat there somewhere, one of those, my friend, he's got this house, Sentosa Cove, very nice, with a boat at the back. Yeah, we'd be all doing something like that. Because at the end of the day, the time is money. Just being in the right place with the right information, right time, right decisions means a lot. Now with cloud assets and the clouds that we shown earlier, those people that can exploit that, and there are lots of people out there right now exploiting this through the social media networks. I mean, people buy from people, right? This trust network through Facebook. Those people that can exploit that will be the future heroes, will be the future multimillionaires, the future big corporations. So it's all about unlocking that wealth. And for me, cloud assets is a double-edged sword. For those people that can manipulate that information from the clouds, from your customers, finding out who your customers are, how to sell them best, you have wealth potential and develop new value. For those people that don't know how to take advantage of the cloud, of applications that manage the cloud, you're effectively going to lose chances of business. And the problem is, everyone has access to the cloud, so it's only what you do now that makes the difference. Just an interesting slide I was just thinking about from a business viewpoint. So, cloud and cloud computing, I've separated the words. Most important thing, when anyone talks to you, cloud is not a product. Doesn't come. You can't go down Simlim and buy it cheap lah in a box with a CD. Yeah. You can't buy it in a piece of metal or a piece of plastic. It's an Acer, it's a plastic, yeah. So, you can't buy it, right? It's much more than that. But this product that you cannot hold has the ability to make your business lean and agile for the future. So I used the two words separately earlier. I said there's cloud and there's cloud computing. Cloud is what we talked about earlier. It's basically information, applications and objects, things that can be used in repositories, most probably on the internet, but doesn't have to be. Lots of cloud, so healthcare, social networks, MSN, corporate, Skype, eBay, Facebook, yeah? That's a cloud. That's a cloud of information. Right? And then we hear this word cloud computing. And that's different. Cloud computing is a style of delivery. It's the way you deliver a cloud information, a set of services. Yeah? It's the way you deliver information, application, storage, and computing power. Right? So, a cloud can be a combination of both. Or it can be, cloud computing can be applied to the term cloud. So, a great example, and I know a gentleman's here from Amazon, is that's truly cloud computing. You can have a cloud of information, you can put all your company information, and the way you consume that service is you buy it as you go, just like water, just like electricity, a style of computing. So I just wanted to separate those two words, because if we just continue to talk about cloud in general, it gets really confusing. Right? Cloud computing is the way you deliver a set of services. Cloud is the cloud of information, application and objects itself. What I say to those people that are not in the infocom industry, it doesn't really matter so much. You can just say, it's cloud. Right? But for those people that it's your job to talk to other people about what it is, you need to know the difference. So, two viewpoints. My wife just thinks everything is in the cloud. Everything's cloud. My job is about, and I know HP and IBM, is in the business of selling cloud computing. Something else. When you think about how you're running your IT today in your company, you can use your own staff. I used to use my own staff. I can give some tasks away to other people, some contractors, out-tasking, or I can give everything away. Many companies here in Singapore give their entire business to companies like IBM and HP to run their business. Yeah? None of those are cloud computing. Cloud computing simply tells you that it's a consumption model, that you only pay for the resources that you use, just like you do with electricity here. Yeah? Now, who runs cloud computing? It can be you. Every one of you can run cloud computing in your own business, in-sourced with your own staff. You can out-task it, or you can give the whole thing for someone else to run. But cloud computing, again, is just the style at which you consume the services. This is very important because a lot of people will try and catch you out. They'll say, oh, but outsourcing is the same as, or cloud computing is the same as outsourcing. It's not true. It's really not true. Outsourcing just is who are the people doing your work, not the way the work's being consumed. So, business and IT. What are the top trends for this year and next? If you go to about 1,500 CEOs of, say, I don't know, SMB, small, medium and large enterprise, and you ask them what's their 3 top things they want to achieve. Not so difficult. Increase business growth, attract new customers and keep the ones you've got, because you don't want to lose the ones you've got, because it's hard to get those customers back if you lose them, right? So that's a key thing. Whether you're in banking or just general customers, yes, you need new customers to feed your new profit. But at the end of the day, you have to keep the ones you've got because they're your backbone as well. And operational and manufacturing cost reduction. I don't think I go to any companies, even the really wealthy ones, that don't say they want to somehow reduce their operational cost. Even though they have so much money, they still want to reduce their operational cost. Yeah. Top 3, business drivers, nothing to do with IT. The people that are responsible for IT, the people like us, people like me, what do we now respond? If you ask 1,500 top executives, CIOs that manage IT, what do they want to achieve? Or how do they want to achieve those business goals? They'll say, I think cloud computing is the answer. And some people say, I've got no idea how that affects, how that will work, but I know that somehow cloud computing is the way forward. Because I was in a game on a golf course in Sentosa, and my colleague told me that he's implemented cloud computing and it saved him lots of money and his business is more agile. So understanding and implementing cloud computing, right or wrong, seems to be what people are interested in doing. Right? And therefore all of us here should be interested in doing it as well. Virtualization. For those, I don't know the level of people we got here tonight, but most of you will probably know virtualizations where you basically reduce the number of servers you have, you can shrink your data centers, shrink everything down. Virtualization and optimization is a good cost-saving task. In Asia, we're about 40%. Most businesses are about 40%, 30 to 40% way through that task of virtualization. Number 3, technologies, mobile. What a surprise. Everything seems to be done through the mobile nowadays, right? I mean, if you took your mobile, your smartphone away from you, it would be like, oh, terrible, right? Take your iPad away, take your Apple away. You wouldn't be able to do anything, right? Because you order everything, you find out where everything is through mobile technologies. I wouldn't even be surprised to find that this guy goes up further in the next 1 to 2 years. And mobile technology merges in with cloud computing, so it's important to understand that. One thing for sure is we have to improve the way we manage our IT, because at the moment we're still not as good as we could be. And I mentioned about finding the customers. Well, unless you've got business intelligence, unless you know how to find your customers and filter your customers and analyze them, you're not going to get new customers, as simple as that. The world has changed. We've gone from the mainframe. We're now in the virtual era. Many companies, Digital, Compaq, Sun, they didn't survive the pressure. They either got bought by somebody else or acquired. I expect to see that trend continue. I expect to see some pretty major names in the future will also disappear and be acquired. I wouldn't like to speculate who those are, but the world changes very quickly, and who you've been dealing with that you thought would be around forever may no longer be with you. I know what you're thinking. Maybe this is not an IT picture, right? Okay, I'm going to tell you this. Some people say, what the hell is this, Martin? I don't understand. Yeah, this is a cow. This was me many years ago, sat in my office, thinking about the world, thinking about what my business wanted me. What my business wanted from me, they wanted me to be a dolphin. They wanted me to deliver cost savings. They wanted me to develop new things. They wanted to come up with new applications. They wanted me fast. Weeks wasn't good enough. Yeah, they wanted it in days and minutes. Right? They wanted me to be this stupid dolphin here, to do the tricks and put the ball on the nose and entertain people. Yeah? But I was the IT department. I was the solid, reliable cow, delivering and keeping my business secure. Right? So the only thing that you and all of us can do, and I had to do it myself, was I can't change. I'm a cow. I'm born a cow. Right? So all I can do is learn to become more agile. And that is the essence of cloud computing, is to become more agile. Right? We can't change who we are. IT is what it is. We just have to make it more agile for our business. This is the dilemma that we all face. We have to cut costs here, but then we have to build new things. We have to be more efficient and more responsive. So you have to spend less money and give people better services. They're conflicting with each other. How can you do that? Right? This is really the challenge that every business out there is now facing. What's it all about? In my organization, I used to provide IT to people. Right? I would give someone a mailbox, email account. For that email, I'm going to charge you $10 per month per user. And everyone was happy for years and years. And then cloud computing comes along. And the companies that come along, like, for example, Google could come along, Microsoft could come along and say, you're very expensive, you know. I could offer you for $1 or $2 per month email with more disk space, with web availability, yeah, all these things. So, hey, you're telling me I've been running my IT department very good, and now you're telling me you can do it at this kind of cost? Oh yeah, and we can do more. We can give you your customer relationship management system at a third of the cost. We can host your servers instead of $500 a month, which I used to charge, which was good value for money. Right? They now tell me the outside people can now do it for $50 per month. Examples like that would be Amazon, for example, could come along and offer me a service for the amount of compute I need for just $50. Yeah? Tata down there at Geelong could do the same. They could subscribe to this instant compute, and also I could be online and start getting these servers hosted for me rather than me having to run it myself. So here's the dilemma. Our jobs rely on running internal services, and there are people outside offering things for much, much less. You know what's going to happen, right? You know what's going to happen. And you can be happy the word security is a prime concern on people's minds, because that's probably the reason we're not all using Google and Microsoft clouds today. Right? Simply on the basis that we have compliance regulations, we have security concerns. A lot of people say, I don't want to use that public cloud because it's all unsafe out there, it's all dangerous, but I still want a more efficient service, and they'll build a private cloud. Right? And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. So here with a private cloud, I can get some of my costs down to make my managers happy, but I don't expose myself to the risk of the complete internet. The other challenge that you have is, one is a cost, the other is agility. We used to carry, I have a BlackBerry somewhere, I used to think BlackBerries were great. They did great email, they still do, and they're fine. And then suddenly this Apple thing came along, and everyone's now, all the top business people are carrying their Apple iPhones, and they want to have their email on their Apple iPhones. Right? They want to have their application access on their iPhones and iPads. They want all the new stuff. All these new young people, many of you out there of course, you want the new stuff because you know what it can do. Right? BlackBerry's not going to make you happy because you can't run the applications you're looking for on there. So there's lots of pressure internally in organizations to move to more dynamic, more smarter, mobility devices like iPads and iPhones. Right? I mean, one manager came to me and he said, I need to use this iPhone. And I said, what? He said, it's for business applications. And I looked at it and there was like Angry Birds running on it. Right? I said, is that a business application? That's what we need for the future? That's going to keep our company going? Yeah, Angry Birds. I can't change it. The world, people will be what people want to be. If they want to run Angry Birds as well as doing their email, you can't stop them in the end. Right? That's how it's going to go. IT is changing. The other thing is, every time I bought a server, people would say, is that good value for money? Did you need to buy that server? Did you need to buy that extra disk space? Right? So people are always questioning you, why do you need to spend so much money? The other thing is, all the end users completely complain about IT people all the time. Oh, I'm out of space. If you've not backed up my PC, this IT is very complicated. I can't use it. It's very frustrating. And you guys, you charge me a lot of money. If I use Amazon.com, I can get a web server and all my marketing stuff much cheaper than you charge me internally. So the end users themselves, the people you're looking after, are revolting against you a little bit. Right? Because they can see what they can do. Right? They do it at home, they expect the same thing back in their office. So the thing you can always tell people when they talk about the public cloud is you can always say, well, it's not my policy to use the internet, it's not secure. If I put my stuff on the internet, it will be hacked. It breaches my industry regulations. It breaches my national regulations. All Singaporeans here, if I put my addresses in Malaysia and my postcodes and my credit card information, that's breaking the government rules in the protection laws here in Singapore. So you get a lot of things you can say to kind of stop the discussion about using those internet services while you figure out what you're going to do personally in your own company. The problem is, that won't go away. Cloud is coming to all of us. The banks are rejecting. In general, the banks are saying, no, I don't want it so much. But other people, like I think the teachers here in Singapore, they've all used to the public Google email. So those people, they're just using very cheap, very low-cost email. It's not really a breach of any industry compliance like the banking regulations just say to talk general communications about what's happening in the school next week. So as we say in the English, horses for courses, right? Different needs will have different responses. What you should be doing as a minimum are 4 things. If you haven't virtualized in your company already, you should do. If you virtualize and that's going in a good way, you should turn it into a private cloud. You should start to look like those smart guys out there offering the cheap services, right? So that's what we call the private cloud. Yes, the public cloud, the Googles, the Microsofts, the Yahoos, the Salesforce.coms. Yes, you can leverage those services as well, no problem. Right? And what we'll find a lot of us companies doing is we do the hybrid cloud. So I'll use some things from the internet and I'll use some things from inside my company and I'll mix them together as a hybrid. That's one of the most popular configurations you'll see of cloud in the next 1 to 2 years. I just really want to talk about quickly what cloud is again, what cloud computing is, not cloud, what cloud computing is. It basically says that you have CPU, applications, disk, network, and you divide it all up and you provide it through a broad network access to all different types of devices. You can scale it up and you can scale it down quickly. You can measure it like water, like kilowatts an hour, like liters per minute, whatever. And you make the users of cloud responsible for ordering their own services. So it's like, to make people understand what they're using, you send them to the shopping mall to buy it themselves. When they put it in the shopping cart, they're responsible for the service. If they got it wrong, it's their fault. They can return it back to the shop, take it out of the cart, and change it. But at least they won't complain about you giving them the wrong kind of service in the beginning. So self-service is a key tenet of cloud computing. That can be delivered in 3 different ways. Software as a service, you just get stuff through the web browser. Platform as a service, an operating system and all your middleware things like databases, and infrastructure as a service. I just give you a virtual server available through the network. Right? So rather than a full bare metal server, you just give me a minimum server, either running Linux or Windows, to run as an infrastructure service. Delivered in the 4 network configurations I talked about. The only one I didn't talk about was community, which is this one here, which is where people trust each other enough, they put their clouds together and put a trust in between the clouds. A good example of a community cloud could be the government here in Singapore. Might put together enough departments together and say, we all trust each other. We're all government guys. We're all friends. So we'll put our clouds together in a community. Could be one example. Virtualization is a word you'll hear a lot. Has nothing to do with cloud. It's just a technology which makes cloud computing affordable. Nothing more than that. And it gives it the elasticity, the ability to scale up and scale down quickly. Yeah. Obviously, it shrinks data centers and shrinks power use as well. Lots of other things you'll hear and people talk to you about is orchestration, monitoring, capacity planning. Your future cloud in your company, or if you're selling cloud to someone else, should make sure that you have those kind of aspects in it, and I'll talk more about that later. The big debate that you'll always be hearing is it public or is it private? Which one's best? Which one do I use? Still goes on. Started 4 years ago and still goes on today. Another view of this is a traditional company. Everybody buys their own thing. IT run it for them, and it's very expensive. Right? A private cloud is where you take those resources and you divide it up amongst everybody, and you give them a service catalog, and they consume it and they pay for it as they use it. So that's your private cloud approach. And then there's the public cloud approach. The Googles, the Amazons, the Microsoft Azures. You consume services over the internet. Yeah? Pay-as-you-go model. When you're sat there trying to figure out your strategy, you're going to think, well, what is it do I want to start? What would be best for my company? Do I want an infrastructure as a service? Do I just want the servers and nothing more? Do I want to have the servers and the databases? Or do I just simply want to consume things through the web? Yeah. So Salesforce.com is a perfect example of SaaS. Most people know Salesforce.com, right? You've got to kind of sometimes, you know. Salesforce.com is really cool. It's a CRM, and it's fully in the cloud. It's a cloud asset, right? And when you implement Salesforce.com, no one's going to come to you with a server and some consultant. Nothing. What do you need? You need a web browser. That's it. That is all you need for a SaaS application, a web browser. Yeah. Whatever it is, whichever one you choose, you have to go through a standard kind of what I call the standard model and scope. You need to figure out what your role is going to be in future, because I'm telling people right now, if you don't think about what this cloud means to you, you might have a sudden shock one day when your job role changes. Right? So you need to think about what your role is. And that's why I'm very keen and passionate to tell you about what we've been doing in an ICF, because if you're interested in cloud, there's a roadmap to develop your career. Those people that don't take care on the cloud, remember the double-edged sword? It can cut you as well as make you grow. So very important to think about what you're going to be doing in this cloud model for future in your company. What model, from where you are now, how you're going to get to the future, right? And which cloud types you will use. You'll need to think about what's the best infrastructure, what's the best management integration to mix up with all your other existing legacy applications. You need to think about compliance and enterprise governance. Right? If you don't comply with the regulations of your industry, of your government, that's a hot topic. That's why I put the chili there. You're in big trouble. Right? One compliance break in your banking organization, you can be shut down. Could even go to prison. And the worst thing, as everyone knows, if you don't get your infrastructure and application security right, you're dead in the water. Seriously. Right? Anybody in their company that allows hackers into their organization, you have got a very short career roadmap. Right? So it's absolutely important to make that your number one priority. So the distance and the way we're traveling. A lot of people here, traditional IT, we start to virtualize it to get the cost down. Right? Once we virtualize a bit of it, we'll move into that private cloud to make it look like, for many enterprises, we'll create our private cloud. We won't share it with anyone outside. We don't like anyone outside. We don't trust anyone outside. Right? We'll do this, and we'll stay safe. And for the more adventurous, they'll use public cloud. Now, many small and medium organizations, and there are a few here, they'll say, I can't be bothered anymore to run my own internal IT. I don't think this virtualization makes any sense because it's more work for me. I will just skip this and go straight to the public cloud. And many organizations now have just said, I don't even want a computer, I don't even want a data center or a computer room anymore. I'll just consume it through the internet. Right? It's big changes. Now, the good news for companies like HP and IBM is that Many organizations don't trust the cloud, and they'll continue to buy their own servers, infrastructure, and storage, and do all their backup things, and they'll keep it in-house. Banks are particularly interested in building private clouds. They do not express any real interest in public clouds because they simply do not trust it, or they're worried about compliance and banking regulations. So, horses for courses again. One thing's for sure is when I meet people, very big companies, I tell them, I say, one thing you must plan for is you might have had a big data center. Now you get these quad-core chips, 8-core chips, 12-core chips. Everything's getting miniaturized and small. Right? So the floor space you need for a data center is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. You need less and less racks, less and less power. The other good news is that the cost of running an application might have been $18, $10 as this reference. If I virtualize it, it'll go down to $330. Right? And if I super virtualize it and super quad core it in the future, I can get workloads down to $77. What's the message? To host applications, to host IT is getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and will continue to do so. And one day I won't have a job anymore because everything will be so cheap. Right? So be aware of the trend. Things are becoming miniaturized, data centers are becoming smaller, and the only people that are getting bigger data centers are those people that are cloud providers, that are actually taking your work from your private companies and putting it into their own. They're the only people that are really growing in any significant size. 3 things you must do when you think about your current IT. Standardize it. Simplify it and rationalize it as much as possible. Once you've got everything simplified and rationalized, then you automate it. So all the manual tasks that took all the heavy effort is now fully automated. Like a production line. Remember the cars, they used to assemble everything by hand? IT is a bit like that. You assemble everything by hand. Right? In the future model, full automation will be here. So essentially, it'll be the robotic production line of IT. What does this mean? For some people, they will lose their jobs. Absolutely no doubt about it. Companies will not continue to employ people whose jobs have just been automated or outsourced. Right? And that's, again, why it's important to understand what cloud computing means to us. For the people that are involved in designing your own infrastructure, you must follow this 3 simple models approach. Now, in your blueprint, you need 6 things. You've got to have smart infrastructure. It has to be, you have to show the business what you're delivering to them. Remember the cow and the dolphin? This is the dolphin. You're showing the business how you're delivering IT like those cheap cloud providers out there as well. Because if you don't do that, you'll just get outsourced. Right? So you have to be visible that you're delivering good service to your company, good value for money. Right? Importantly, all the people that are counting how much you cost to your IT departments, they'll want to know where you're spending the money. With a private cloud, you can start to show people how you're spending your money doing the right things. If you don't show people how you're spending the money, you get trouble. It's like me with my wife. She goes through my wallet and she says, oh, there's $100 missing. Right? Where did that go? And I feel guilty even though I did nothing bad. Right? Traceability, auditability is very important in our companies. If you can't run any of this infrastructure in a good way, with IT best practices, all of this breaks. Right? No point having a brilliant airplane, a brilliant airport, if your pilot is not following best practices. Right? Big trouble. So that's important. So ITIL and COBIT are very important in this space. And importantly, of course, no point building a data center in an area likely to flood or get tsunamied or anything like this. This is why right now Japan has gone mad about cloud computing. Every company I talk to in Japan, they want to move to cloud computing because they want to be able to put their data center potentially in another country or on some high ground somewhere outside of Tokyo, because Tokyo is obviously a bit turbulent, a bit close to the edge. Better to move those services to somewhere else or have the ability to switch between country if bad things happen. Now, at the end of the day, those 5 elements there, they need to be automated. You have to see from end to end. If you can't see how this is running and this is running and this is running and how your operation's running and your data center running, if you can't see it, you don't have control. Very important to get your orchestration, your security and your governance right across all of those 5 areas. Now, many years ago, I had to make the decision about cloud computing. Remember, I don't sell things to people. I had to buy things. And I had to do this exercise in cloud. So for me, it was a bit like gambling. It was a bit like, you might as well have gone to Sentosa with $1 million and just put it on the table, because it's really complicated, this cloud, right? This whole cloud computing thing. Everybody's got something to sell you better than something else, right? Don't buy that one, buy this one. Don't buy this one, buy this one. This is cheaper, that's more... Very complicated, yeah? So I was always concerned, because it is like gambling. If you make the wrong choices, you're going to end up spending more money than what you tried to save, right? That's not good. Nobody wants to go back to their boss and say, this return on investment plan I had, well, bad news, I didn't save any money. In fact, I spent more money than I planned to save. A very, very career-limiting roadmap. So the things I had to think about was, do I go for like an open source solution for this cloud? Because open source is cheap, right? You can download it from everywhere. It's really, really cheap. Nice, easy to get all the components. Lots of great communities out there to support you. Open source end. Then there's the very proprietary end. Solutions that people sell you. It's to me like the iPhone. You know, you can only use iTunes to open it up, right? Can't use anything else unless you jailbreak it. But if you jailbreak it, you lose your warranty and all the other, and things get messy. So you can go for a super lockdown solution. You get great support. You can go for an open solution, but it's a lot more thinking, a lot more programming, a lot more to do in an open source space. Yeah, probably need some programmers there as well to get the full benefit of that. So my tendency was to sit somewhere in the middle and say, well, I want a solution which actually has bits of proprietary for the support and bits of open source for some cost, and try and find that balanced solution. Right? Now, I'm not going to tell you today what that is. That's the homework you have to do. I'm just simply advising you that a complete open source solution without taking care will put you in a lot of trouble, and a complete proprietary solution will put you in a lot of trouble as you tend to upgrade it. So just think smart. Walk the middle of the road and make sure that you can step to each side as you think about that solution. Typical roadmap people go through. They say that people spend 80% of their money on IT to keep it running, to do nothing else. Remember the cow? That's your cow. And there's your dolphin money. Right? Following a set of best practices, doing the right things, doing the right virtualization, doing the right private cloud approach, and the things I talked about earlier, standardizing, simplifying, and automating, can actually free up a lot of money, operational money. Now, I'm not saying how much that is, because people will come along to you and they'll tell you they'll save you immense amounts of money, and they're probably not telling the truth because they want to sell you something. All right? The reality is there's a lot of money to be saved. Remember the operational cost to make the bosses happy? There is a lot of potential to be gained in implementing a cloud solution, but you have to be careful. Now, I always say to people, if you do save that money, do a deal with business, make sure that you use that money, don't just give it back to the business, because they'll take it and then they'll want more next year. Right? What you have to do is use that money for innovation and start doing cool stuff like maybe making iPhone applications or Android applications, things that bring value to your business. Right? It's what I call the innovation money. Don't just give it back to your cost centers, because they'll take the money and then just simply ask you what you're going to contribute as a saving next year. That's a real picture. And when I first saw it, I thought, huh, what's that? Okay, that looks like a cargo container being sucked into a jet engine. And sure enough, it is a container sucked into a jet engine. That could be a problem for someone, right? So it's a consequence of doing something. Well, the doing something is having the engine turned on near a container, or not doing something which is not stop as you're moving forward on the taxi, on the runway area, right? So IT governance is about the most important thing we have in our lives, right? If you don't get your governance right in your IT, this kind of trouble happens. Sorry? Go to the gents? Okay. Because it's a bit cloudy in there, you know. Okay, so this is the perfect example using an airline. I'm telling you, for every one of your jobs, you also have the opportunity to suck in a cargo container. In every one of our jobs, we have the ability to do that. Or we have the ability to not do it. Right? IT governance is very important. So, all IT governance is about, and I tell people a lot about this, and sometimes I'm not sure anyone's listening, but I say, look, it's really, really important, because all I ever want to do in my job, right, is to make sure that good things happen. That doesn't matter whether it can be good things happening to my family, good things happening to my friends, good things happening in my companies, yeah, and good things happening in my IT department. Making sure that good things happen, because the anti of that is the bad things happening, right? You must make sure that bad things don't happen. And every day now I hear on the news something bad happening in IT. None of you want to be responsible for something bad happening in your company. So I'm telling people that please, cloud computing or general IT, make sure that you have good governance. Simply make sure that the plan that you have for your cloud computing really aligns with what your business strategy. So, make sure that it matches, that what you've bought matches what your company said it's going to achieve, or on your personal area. Make sure that the money you spend is linked to an outcome. Right? For every dollar you spend, there should be $2 in return. Okay, not really. Okay, that would be nice. But there should be an investment strategy, like a bank. Right? You must reduce that cost of running your IT, but you must do it without reducing it. Because the temptation, I know that I had personal temptation, was someone says, you need to cut your costs right now. What are you going to do? Well, my computers are fixed, so I can only fire Tim. I can only get rid of people. Right? Now, if you get rid of people, if they're good people, you're going to bring in risk. Right? So it has to be mitigated. So, yes, bring efficiency to your IT, but don't do it where it puts you in risk and your company at risk. And of course, this corporate security, this compliance, this regulation, it drives me crazy. It seems like 10 years ago these words weren't even here, and now everything SOX compliance, Basel, HIPAA, PCI, my goodness. So much happening in here. You've got to take care. You get to trouble. Hopefully there's no people here that are personally on this list. This is letters from various CEOs. Right? Some of these people message from Singapore Airlines, who used their website this year. Wow, that's an interesting development, huh? That's what I mean, making sure that good things happen and not bad things. Right? DBS, they had that little, it was IBM, right? Yeah. I remember that. Something bad happened on a disk, right? And everybody lost their cash machines. And I read today that it's all okay and the governments and MAS is happy now with DBS because please don't do it again, right? But it's embarrassing to send out letters about your company. And you know what? Behind these letters, there are real managers and real people like us with real names getting lots of trouble, right? So make sure bad things don't happen. These are kind of the characteristics, and I talk about governance, these are the kind of characteristics. If these kind of things are happening in your world today, you might have a governance problem that you need to think about and address. It could be, I've got too big a data center, or too small a data center, or I had some downtime that could have been avoided if I'd done the right things, or I lost some data of my business unit or my business partners, or my projects have been disastrous. The project that was meant to be done in 6 weeks is now taking 6 months. Right? These are characteristics of poor governance that you may need to address. Right? This is a perfect, those people that know virtualization in VMware, this is a purple screen of death. Who knows a purple screen of death? There won't be many of you, right? Because most of you don't get your hands in it. When a virtual machine crashes in the cloud, it comes up with this color. When it comes up with this color, that's a bad day for you. Right? If you're responsible for it, that means you've probably lost some production, you've probably lost some banking transactions, bad things can happen. Right? Those things happen as a result of bad governance, not controlling how you manage your business. You can measure it, it is possible, and it can be graded. I do recommend people, I won't go into the details of that, it is possible for you to look into your organization and measure, am I a good person or am I a bad person, or am I okay? At the end of that, you can find out where you are. So for example, am I a good planning and organizing person? Did I acquire and implement my solution correctly? Did I deliver and support my customers correctly? Did I monitor and evaluate what I'm delivering to my people today? And you can find out where you are, measure your maturity, and then you should decide quickly where you should be, because you'll find weaknesses. And all I say to people is, you can't be perfect in everything. I tell my wife that I can't be perfect in everything. And essentially, just fix the things that are going to burn you, right? Things that are the bad things happening, yeah? The good things can wait, but make sure you fix the bad things. Please evaluate your infrastructure before you undertake new projects, and definitely before you undertake cloud computing. Here are the kind of buzzwords that you need to know. Right? So those people that run IT in companies, you should know that. And if you don't know it, I'm a bit scared, because I don't want to be your customer. Right? ITIL. Right? How to run your business how to run your infrastructure properly. Call desk, support, strategy management, things like that. If I'm doing projects, it's going to be PMBOK, right? You're going to be Prince. There's going to be people in your organization